was bizarre. So before the show, the Tim and Sid Twitter account asks, I'm paraphrasing because I'm too lazy to bring it up, what do you think of the Montreal Canadiens gamble to sign Ilya Kovalchuk, who had been released from the LA Kings, for those who didn't remember, and is still a cap hit of $6.25 million on the Kings, not only this year but next year, and was a complete failure with that organization. Tim then replies to our own tweet and says, gamble? What gamble? I have never seen McAuliffe have an online Twitter spat, I'm not going to call it a fight, Twitter disagreement with the Tim and Sid account prior to today. History made early in 2020 online as Tim McAuliffe tweets back at our own show, what's the gamble? Cost them near nothing. Incredible.
Sometimes they tweet and they don't pass the tweet by us.
Right.
So I don't want people to think that I think that it's a gamble to put Ilya Kovalchuk on your team when you're paying him nothing, and have a two-way contract. So if he is the pain in the ass that he has been in the past, you just send him down, jam done. And I know there's a lot of people tweeting in, wow, he could be toxic in the room. And Jonathan Drouin, Paul Byron, Yoel Armia, Brendan Gallagher, all of them, along with Matthew Pekka, are on the IR. And you've scored 2 goals in your last 2 games. What? Like, why not try it?
Why not, Pop? There's no risk.
It's been the same thing in Montreal for years. They don't score a lot of goals. Bring a guy in who, I don't know, in the past has scored a lot of goals. If it doesn't work, who cares? You spent, what, a prorated $700,000 on this?
They're paying them. See, when I was driving in and heard the news, Tim, I didn't know what the money was. And I said to myself, if they're spending real money on Ilya Kovalchuk, who the Oilers didn't even bring in, think about that for a second.
Nobody brought him in.
Nobody brought him in.
The best
Any
that
team
he could
desperate for offense did not bring the guy in.
Yeah.
And Ilya Kovalchuk is brought in. So when I didn't hear the money, I was a little skeptical. However, when you hear it's basically the minimum, what are we talking about? Because he's obviously not going to do anything for you, but there's maybe a 10% chance he does. And if he does, great. But Tim, I think this masks a different issue for the Habs as we sit here on this Friday after what we saw last night. They're now 6 points back of third in the Atlantic.
Doesn't mask anything. They're in deep trouble.
They're in a lot of trouble.
And that's why they signed him.
But what I'm saying is I don't know if you can come back from this with Tampa with 2 games in hand for third in the Atlantic Division. They're 7 points back of the wild card. Yeah. So you can bring in Ilya Kovalchuk. You can bring in anyone you want at this point. I don't know if the damage hasn't already been done. And dare I say, on December 3rd, you can write off the Montreal Canadiens. The math here is awful, man.
It's January 3rd.
It's January 3rd.
Right.
And listen, I wrote off the Blues last year, and I was right.
You said December 3rd.
Did I say December 3rd?
So happy Thanksgiving to you.
Happy 4th of July to you, too.
And Dan Snyder. So on January 3rd, right off the Montreal Canadiens.
But they're making up 6 points on Tampa with 2 games in hand for Tampa. They're going to make that up?
I think the guys that you're going after is probably Philadelphia and maybe Carolina, but I don't think you're catching Carolina. I think it's the Metropolitan Division because they've kind of sort of come back down to earth. The Flyers are 7 points up on Montreal at this point, but if you look at Montreal's history over the last little while, and some of this has to do with how good Carey Price is and how hot certain guys got, but 1-5 in their last 6 comes after a 6-2 stretch, which came after an 8-game winless streak. So there's a few teams that have gone on runs and streaks. This is one of those teams. Canucks are another one of those teams. You can make up some ground, but
you got to go. You got to go.
But I don't think it's going to be Toronto, Boston, or Tampa that they catch at this juncture.
And while you make up the ground, Shea Weber and Carey Price can't get hurt, by the way. So good luck with that.